Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We have very straightforward guidance here for you today as we take on another one of your questions about work. And so for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm the startup investor in the future of work. And every day we take on one of your questions. And sometimes those questions are relevant to the people who we work with every day who start organizations. And so today is, I want to start a tech company, a tech nonprofit. Michelle, in your case, we'll talk about in a second. How can I build technology if I'm not technical? And our guest is Michelle Brown, who started and is the CEO of CommonLit, which provides something that I really thought existed, which didn't, I guess, before CommonLit, which is free curriculum of high quality for teachers to use in school, starting with reading and writing. And you can correct me if I got that wrong.
You nailed it.
Awesome. So, okay. You started a tech thing which distributes media effectively online through a website. How can one do that if one is not technical?
Right. Well, let me just put right up front a credibility fact, which is that CommonLit today has over 20 million registered teachers and students. And I'm the founder. And my background, and my background is like I have no background.
You were a teacher, right?
I was an educator. Yeah, I was a classroom teacher. And then, I was an English major in college and I did classical ballet. So like literally, all of the tech speak was totally foreign to me going into this role. I didn't know what a product team was. I didn't know what DevOps was.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, wait, so you have people whose job it is to tell the engineers what to build? No. That's not what product people do. I was like, I stepped on some religious third rail.
No, I know. And the difference between like designers and product team, and it's just like mind blown. And so, long story short, I took money from my wedding money and hired an engineer in India, and literally sketched out version 1 of CommonLit.
But so just to stop you at that point in the story to make sure I'm following along, because this is the point of the story at which many people think to themselves, either I should go learn to code, or I've heard about this low and no code stuff out there. Should I just use, I don't know, Webflow, Zappy magic,
Yes. And I totally had that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, well, it's really expensive to hire engineers. But if I became an engineer, then I could just build this in my free time. And this is where I think where my answer don't comes from, which is that I made the right call because I was like, oh, what are my special assets? And it was literally, I, had deep empathy for what it means to be a teacher. So I knew my customer. I had a vision for what the product needed to be. So essentially what I had to do was become be a product person, kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so the challenge then that you overcame, though, just to make sure, let's take it one half step further, because that's super helpful. And one thing I just say is, having tried to build some no code stuff and low code stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
There is a skill that is just as technical in those. The same way that an investment banker has technical skill with the use of Excel, those are technical products, meaning you have to go up a learning curve with them. And so whether they are easier or harder, I don't think is actually the real thing. It's more that they're purpose-built tools for one particular kind of thing you might create. But the real challenge often for people is not knowing what to make. And so you knew what to make because you imagined yourself as the user. But then what other skills did you have to learn? Because I remember as a non-technical CEO, the first time I had to hire an engineer, I was like, I feel like I'm at a doctor and somebody's like, you need open heart surgery. And I'm like, really? You're going to crack my chest open? I don't know. So how did you overcome the cardiologist problem?
First is, I think that when you're non-technical, it really, really raises the bar on hiring. And so, my approach was just to have a lot of mentors and to hire the right people. I think second is it also really raises the bar on your ability to be a good boss. So for example, I found an engineer, it's like, okay, hey, I'll give you, $5,000 and this is all that I have. How long do you think it will take you to build this, the whatever widget? And they'll say something to me, well, first I have to connect the what's-a-majig to the who's-its. And I literally have no way of knowing how long that's going to take or if they're pulling one over on me. So in that way, I think it's harder to be a manager. And,
So how did you learn?
so I think that first you have to hire people who you trust. And so what I did is I basically just like got a bunch of like champion mentors. So there was this guy, Jeff Harcourt, who's actually now our CTO at CommonLit, we're based in DC. And was like known as this like really great mentor of like all the Ruby on Rails engineers in DC. And I was like, I have to meet him. So I like went to the pizza party with all the Ruby on Rails dudes, engineers, and was just like, Jeff, hey, can I talk to you?
Was it all dudes?
Yeah. All
No,
dudes.
I mean, I think that's
Oh
one of
yeah.
the things
No,
too.
all
I mean,
dudes.
I can't relate to it as a guy, but my sense is that, it's got to be a very different experience for a woman to be entering that market. But so much of what you're saying sings to me. I mean, I now consider myself technical curious, but that came from a lot of experience of managing technical people. And I made my first hire and totally had the cardiologist problem of like, I don't know what to do. And I brought in a friend, this guy, Vijay Ravindran, who's now a startup founder, who was the CTO of the Washington Post. And he, as a favor to me, went and talked to our engineers and talked to this person who I'd hired. And the amazing thing is he came back to me and he's like, all your intuitions were right. And I think what you discover is, yeah, these things are different, but it's mostly differences in language and nomenclature. And you can, I mean, if somebody's explaining something to you, you can kind of tell if they know what they're talking about 90% of the time. And again, our product was a media product, which like yours in the pantheon of technical products is not all that technical, right? I mean, like, it's not like you were doing something that nobody knew if it could be done. You weren't working on self-driving cars.
Exactly.
You were working on distributing media.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. Anything else? Any other parting thoughts, Michelle, before we say goodbye? All right.
No, don't.
Okay. CommonLit.org. Is that the website?
CommonLit.org. Yep. Check it out.
Want to
It's
donate,
free.
they can go there, check it out, tell your favorite teacher about it. And thank you for joining us. And for those of you who are here for the first time, the reason we say this is not advice is we're not telling you how to do your thing. We're giving you a person's experience, and she's describing her path through it in this case, and would love to have you back. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Roy.
Other questions, find us